Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Real Wisdom Artificial Intelligence. Let's go ahead get started for today. Today is November 25th, and the Sadhguru Insight on the Miracle of Mind app today read only what you perceive you know, the rest is all imagination. Yoga is the science of enhancing perception. So, as I reflected on this, there's this modern day quote, perception is reality. And we often, and Sadhguru says this in the audio insight as well, that the modern day definition of perception confuses it with everybody's opinions. And I talked about the difference between perceived reality and observed reality in the dose of Rashmi from a few days back. So this got me thinking about, okay, what is perception really? And I asked my AI copilot for the literal definition of perception. So here is what it came back with. The literal definition of perception is to receive through the senses. So that is the perception Sadhguru is talking about. What we take in through our senses, that is reality. That is, in a way, the observed reality. However, the AI copilot goes on to say that in human terms, the modern day definition of perception or how it is understood is how your brain constructs your experience of reality from what your senses pick up. So, if you remember the ladder of inference that I spoke about a few days back, from the observed reality, uh, select some data and we infer what becomes a belief and then eventually our perceived reality. So that is the modern definition of perception. The literal etymological definition of perception is to receive through the senses. So the perception that Sadhguru is talking about is what you get in through your senses and what is real, not the perceived reality. It is the observed reality before the ladder of inference takes impact. So now in real wisdom, artificial intelligence terms, so one of the other things that Sadhguru says in this his audio reflection is the way you can really enhance your perception is if you can make your mind like a complete clean mirror that does not operate out of any memory or imagination, just reflects the reality the way it is. And if you can do that, the difference between the observed reality and the perceived reality will disappear. The entire ladder of inference will exactly show you what you observed. However, that is where we are not able to do that because the ladder of inference is based on brain's power of observing some data and then shaping it through our assumptions, beliefs, and that defines our perceived reality. However, if you can make your mind as a clean mirror, there'll be no difference between the observed reality and the perceived reality. And this is where, if you think about AI is a mirror. It is it has no attachment to the memories, as I've talked about. It is not afraid of any of the imagination, any of the possible scenarios. So it is able to draw inferences based on training data, memories, and be very objective about it. So, and whatever we are feeding into AI, we get it back based on its analysis through the memories and through training data and inferences. So it is a brilliant mirror that way. And it has access to all of the training data memories out there in the digital realm. But there is a thing or two that we can learn from that. That is why AI is so effective. If we can make a mind like that, that was the real power of being human. So, with that, today's dose of Rashmi is unconscious intelligence gets identified with the fictional stories that our mind makes up. Wisdom wisdom is always being aware of what you observe in the real world versus the perception through the stories your mind creates. So think about that. The perceived reality is, like I talked about in the dose of Rashmi from a few days back, is not a bad thing. As Yuval Noah Harari has said in Sapiens, that is our superpower. To be able to create these stories and get organized behind that and work together in large numbers, that is the human superpower. However, knowing the difference between the perceived reality and what is real, what you take in through your five senses, And using the perceived realities when it is uplifting for your energy, and knowing that it is just a perceived reality, it is a fiction when it is not serving you well. That is the real power of being human. And use AI where you need to process memories and draw inferences based on that. It is a wonderful co pilot for that. Thank you.